Last time we learned that scrub jays are considered songbirds, even though they sound much harsher and less melodic than we might expect from a songbird. In fact, more than half of all bird species are songbirds. So today we're here to ask, what even is a songbird anyway? Well, the distinction is a taxonomic one. In biology, we use taxonomy as a way to categorize different life forms to understand them better. Taxonomy started out through grouping life forms together based on shared physical characteristics. As we learn more through studies of DNA and fossil records, we update the system so that the groupings reflect the relationship of shared ancestors. A taxonomic breakdown of the California scrub jay looks like this. Domain, Eukaryota. Kingdom, Animalia. Phylum, Chordata. Class, Aves. Order, Passeriformes. Family, Corvidae. Genus, Aphelocoma. And species, Aphelocoma californica. You may have used mnemonic devices like Dear King Philip came over for good soup in school to remember which order this breakdown goes in. Did I just end a sentence in a preposition? Yes. But don't worry, I have permission. I always thought that Dear King Philip mnemonic was a little boring, though. How about a bird one? Do kestrels prefer crickets or fresh grasshopper salad? You can see here that the California scrub jay belongs to the order Passeriformes. Order Passeriformes is further split up into 3 suborders. Oscines, also known as Passeri, Sub-Oscines, known as Tyranni, and New Zealand wrens, also known as Acanthicidae. The very quick answer to what exactly is a songbird is any species of bird that belongs to the suborder Oscines. But let's back up just a bit. You know what a bird is, so the class, Aves, needs no explanation. But how about Passeriformes? Passeriformes, or passerines, are also known as perching birds. And as you may expect from a group known as perching birds, their feet are quite specific. Passerines have anisodactyl feet, meaning that they have 3 forward-pointing toes and 1 pointing backwards, and all 4 toes meet the leg at the same level.
Songbird.
Notice how on this Terex sandpiper the back toe connects higher up on the leg than the rest of the toes.
Not a songbird.
In addition to the specific toe configuration, something that makes these birds so good at perching is the tendon in their legs. For the 3 front toes, passerines don't have a lot of specific control. What they have is a tendon that automatically pulls the toes into a perching position when they land on a branch. This means that they can sleep comfortably while perched without fear of falling off.
Songbird.
But even though they're called perching birds, passerines aren't the only birds that perch, so let's dive a little deeper. Many hawks and falcons have 3 toes forward and 1 back, and while they can and do perch, their feet prioritize hunting first, giving them a more complex tendon arrangement and long, curved talons. Passerine feet are more flexible, but their toes don't spread out as widely.
Not a songbird.
Hummingbird feet look a lot like passerine feet. They're flexible and anisodactyl. Unlike passerines, however, hummingbirds can't walk. They can perch and scoot sideways, but in order to prioritize speed and lightness, hummingbird feet are just too small and weak to walk around on.
Not a songbird.
Parrots have 2 toes forward and 2 back.
Not a songbird.
Owls have feet that sometimes look like passerine feet, but don't be fooled. They can actually rotate one of their forwards facing toes to the back.
Not a songbird.
Also worth noting is that passerines are land birds, and so their feet are never webbed or lobed like waterfowl.
Those are not songbirds.
All passerines are altricial, which means they're born needing a lot of care from their parents. They hatch with closed eyes and little to no feathers, and their parents feed them for a while before teaching them to feed themselves.
Those are songbirds.
Many birds, like ducks and chickens, meanwhile, are precocial, meaning that they're born open eyed, feathered, and ready to move around and eat on their own.
Those are not songbirds.
Passerines and parrots are the most altricial birds, which makes sense because, as recent studies have discovered, they're closely related. DNA has shown they have a common ancestor not shared with other birds.
Altricial, but the wrong order. Not a songbird.
There's a pretty big spectrum between precocial and altricial birds. Owls, for example, are semi-altricial because their hatchlings are covered with down, but they still need help from their parents to eat.
Those are not songbirds.
The difference between altricial and precocial birds is a lot like the difference between human babies and ape babies, and there's some evidence to suggest that the purpose is similar too. Delaying some aspects of brain maturation until after birth or hatching may mean that such animals are able to learn how to be more flexible and innovative. So, to put it simply, species with babies that are more helpless are often able to become smarter in the long run. Maybe that's why crows can learn to use tools,
Songbird.
and many songbirds and parrots can make such complex noises and even sometimes mimic human speech. Passerines have a unique shape to their sperm. The head is coiled. This little guy here is in the process of having his sperm collected by scientists. So remember, kids, jobs in science aren't always glamorous. But I assume you guys aren't going around identifying birds by their sperm, I hope? If you are identifying birds by sperm, then I assume you're an ornithologist, and hey, let me know if you want to collab on a video about bird spunk. Most passerines have exactly 12 tail feathers. Since this is so common, I think it makes sense to assume that their common ancestor also had 12 tail feathers. But of course, this isn't a great way for most of us to identify a bird, because it can be hard to count the tail feathers. And some passerines have as few as 6 or as many as 16 tail feathers.
Songbird.
Passerines are pretty small in the overall landscape of bird sizes. The smallest is the short-tailed pygmy tyrant, who at 6.5 centimeters long is smaller than most species of hummingbird.
Not a songbird. This one's a trap. It's in the same order as songbirds, but it's a subausteme.
On the larger end of the order, we find ravens if we're going by weight.
That's a songbird.
And if we're going by length, the bird of paradise and lyrebirds. But is counting tail feathers in length a little bit like including a tall hairstyle in someone's height? Well, these birds are so beautiful that we'll give them a pass there.
Songbirds.
Okay, so that's the order. But as we already discovered, songbirds are actually a suborder known as oscines. Of the 3 suborders of passerines, oscines are by far the most populous, with around 4,000 species.
Songbird.
Suboscines have around 1,000 species,
Not a songbird.
and New Zealand wrens have only 2 living species.
Not a songbird.
The difference between oscines and suboscines has to do with an organ called the syrinx, which is how birds make vocal noises. Almost all birds have a syrinx. The exceptions to this are New World vultures like the turkey vulture. They can still make noises, but without a syrinx they're limited to hisses and grunts, and they can sound an awful lot like an old man with bad congestion blowing his nose. The extraordinary vocal control that songbirds possess is the result of their intrinsic musculature, or the muscles around their syrinx, which even give them the ability to control each side of their syrinx independently, creating two different notes at the same time. There are two big differences between Auceans and subauceans. The first is that Auceans have at least 3 pairs of intrinsic muscles controlling their syrinx, more commonly 4 pairs, and sometimes as many as 6. Subauceans may have none at all, or as many as 2 pairs of intrinsic muscles. The second is that Aucean babies learn their songs from their parents and other nearby birds of the same species. Because they learn their songs, Auceans often have vocal dialects that change depending on where they live. Subauceans, on the other hand, generally make the same noises even if they're raised in isolation or deaf. So if you hear a bird saying they're gonna park the car in Harvard Yard, that's an Aucean. My apologies to the people of Massachusetts for that terrible accent. There is an exception to this, however. 2 of the 4 species of bellbirds have shown that they're capable of vocal learning. Taxonomically, though, they're in the Cotinga family, which makes them sub-Auceans. This is an example of taxonomy reflecting the close DNA relationships instead of characteristics.
Vocal learners, but still not songbirds.
Hummingbirds and parrots are also vocal learners and have some impressive syrinx control. But not only are they not Auceans, they're not even passerines, so they're not considered songbirds.
Vocal learners, but still not songbirds.
And what about New Zealand wrens? They've been classified in both the Aucean and sub-Aucean suborders at different times. They have no intrinsic muscles, but they do have a bone structure that indicates that they used to. And they're proven to be vocal learners. After studies that included DNA data showed that they split off from a common ancestor a long time before the Aucean-sub-Aucean split, they were given their own suborder.
Vocal learners, but still not songbirds.
If you want to know more about New Zealand wrens, don't worry, they're the subject of my next video. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to be alerted when that one comes out. Bird vocalizations fall into 2 different categories: calls and songs. Calls are short, uncomplicated noises that are often used to alert other birds to danger, or perhaps to scare off an attacker. This house sparrow is basically just shouting, "Hey! Hey!" Songs are longer and contain many different notes. This house sparrow is probably saying something like, "Please notice that this is my territory and that I am in excellent health. Thank you." Calls are common to almost all types of birds, but very few birds who aren't songbirds have long and complex songs. Even though I poked a bit of fun at scrub jays in my last video for being classified as songbirds and sounding like this, the truth is that this is a call and not a song. Scrub jays also make very sweet, soft noises that are much more melodious. While I've heard them do this in my own yard, I unfortunately don't have a clip. Both male and female scrub jays sing, and it's usually something they do as a courtship ritual or when a mated pair is close together. There's a lot of variety among songbirds when it comes to how many songs they learn. Some songbirds keep it simple and sing only one song for their whole lives. Roughly a third of all songbirds fit into this category. Savanna sparrows, for example, have a brief window in which they learn songs. From birth until the beginning of their first mating season, they might sing a couple of different songs if they're exposed to more than one. But eventually, they'll settle on a single song that they'll sing for the rest of their lives, even if they're exposed to new songs later on. Even for those songbirds who sing only a single song, though, remember that the songs are learned, which means they can change by region or over time. White-throated sparrows used to have such a consistent song that birders often thought of them as singing, "Oh, sweet Canada, Canada, Canada." Over time, however, another version of the song showed up, with a two-syllable ending instead of the older three-syllable ending. The newer version started in British Columbia, spread slowly to Alberta, and over the course of a decade became the only version of the song that white-throated sparrows sang in that region. Because of migration, it's now so widespread that it can be heard in Quebec and Texas. Other birds are lifelong learners that continue to build their repertoire. On the extreme end of the scale, brown thrashers might know over 2,000 songs. Have a listen to how many different kinds of sounds make up this brown thrasher's song when he rocks out. We often hear birdsong in the early morning. In fact, it's so common that it has a super cute colloquial name, the dawn chorus. We aren't sure why birds seem so much more vocal at this time of day. But we do know that one function of songs is to claim territory. And I do kind of think that if birds are all out declaring their territories, it makes sense to have an agreed on time to do it to make sure that everyone around gets the memo that certain areas are already claimed. I think maybe it's kind of like showing up to a meeting. Another purpose of songs is to find a mate. In species that learn only a single song, variations on the songs are usually regional, and females often gravitate to the local song, the one they grew up listening to. For bird species that have large repertoires, females often seem to select for mates with a larger variety of songs. Some birds, like the yellow-rumped cacique, are even known to start improvising if they're not getting any responses. While it's usually male birds singing for female attention, that's not always the case. Female alpine accenters also sing to attract mates, and the males can tell the difference between female or male singing. And while it is unusual for female birds to sing to find a mate, many species across many families of songbirds have demonstrated female song in other circumstances. In fact, it's so widespread that scientists now think that the common ancestor of all passerines likely had female song. Once a mating pair is established, some species of songbirds perform duets. Here's a clip of some northern cardinals singing together. One study found that species who duet with their mates were more than twice as likely to be monogamous long term. The family that sings together stays together. Well, sometimes anyway. The same study, which, along with the rest of my research, is listed in the description if you want to read more about it, found that half of all duetting species stayed in the same territory all year instead of migrating, as opposed to only 11% of non-duetting passerines. so singing together might be a way that a mated pair stakes a strong claim to their territory. In some duetting species, like northern cardinals and Baltimore orioles, males and females have an equal level of complexity. In others, like Carolina wrens, the male will sing a complex song and the female will contribute a sort of chatter noise, sort of like being a backup singer. Overall, we know of 220 species that duet. But since there are over 4,000 species of songbirds, that's still a pretty small percentage. In what might be the cutest thing I came across in my research for this video, some songbirds have flight songs. That's right, they just sing while they're flying. I think if I could fly, I'd probably be having so much fun doing it that I would sing too. But of course, the birds probably have a better reason for doing it than that. Apparently, this is most common in birds who, like this Eurasian skylark, live in grasslands. Okay, are you ready for the pop quiz? Let's go!
Songbird. Songbird. Not a songbird. This one's a trap. It's in the same order as songbirds, but it's a subausteme. Not a songbird. Songbird. This little poofball is a New Zealand wren. Not a songbird! These wussy-looking babies are all trishul. They're songbirds! When those wussy babies are all grown up, they'll look like this guy. Songbird. Songbird. Those useless little feet belong to a hummingbird, not a songbird! Not a songbird! This guy may have the most unfortunate name I've ever heard, but this tortoise is still a songbird. This guy will eat most of this list for breakfast. Not a songbird! He thinks you look tasty, not a songbird. 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 How are you doing on this quiz so far? This house finch is judging you. Songbird. It's a trap! Subausteme! Not a songbird! Songbird. Songbird. Come on, that's an owl. That is not a songbird. This guy's a lot like a writing desk. Songbird. Songbirds!
Thanks so much for coming with me on this journey to learn about songbirds. All bird songs, photos, the video of the crow, and the drawings of the bird of paradise, the syrinx, and the sparrow's leg are from Wikimedia Commons. And you'll find citations for those and for my research in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time when we'll be learning about New Zealand wrens.